Welcome. Glad to have everybody join us today. We are coming to you from the great state of Texas. You're speaking my language. Don't get lost in the translation. Glad to have you. As you're joining on, do us a favor, drop in the comment section where you are joining from. What's your location, your hometown? You can drop the organization in as well. And then also while you do that, let us know what assessments that you have had experience with. Roy and I've done many, Donna's done many, MBTI. We're going to focus on 3 today. But where are you joining from, and what experience have you used with assessments in your organization? So super glad to have you guys on. We've got Shelly and Jan from Amarillo. Glad to have them, along with Brad and Jaquita from Amarillo. We've got William. Who else do we have joining us today? I've got Debbie from Lubbock. Glad to have you, Debbie. Thanks for joining us today. Who else? Just drop in that chat and that comment. It's a comment section on StreamYard. It is not a chat, so I have got to correct myself on that today. But what assessments have you had experience with? Glad to have you guys dropping on. It's going to be a great day. We're going to teach you some things. We've got Matthew from Amarillo. Thanks for joining us, Matthew. Got a couple other people joining on as well. We're going to go ahead and get started. We want to make good use of our time today. So glad to have you. We've got a few presenters today. There will be 3 of us. We're excited to all be presenting to you today. Want to go over a little bit what our goals are. We want to expand our collective understanding in the depth of value of assessments. How can we use them to improve as a team? In today's age with recruiting, hiring, productivity, we can get better as a team using assessments. We're going to have a live interactive conversation with some participants. Excited for the group of participants that we have on today. And we're going to be going over 2 of our favorite assessments with them. We're going to be going over DISC with a group from Ronald McDonald House Charities of Amarillo, as well as Working Genius with a pair from Excel Energy. So that'll be great. You'll get to hear live from them the impact and how they are utilizing that or will utilize that assessment in their organization. And then we will also have an offer for you at the end. So hang on, don't stop, don't drop the call, don't think it's over. We do have a high value offer for you at the end, which includes a 30-minute coaching call regarding these assessments. So hang on, be interactive in the comment section. Be sure to drop your comments in that section for us. We will, if we're not going to cover it, we will try to get to all of those comments. So do me one more favor, those of you that are participating in the comment section, write your goal. What would you like for your goal to be today? What would you like to ensure that we cover for you in today's webinar in that comment section? As you do that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker, our first presenter today. His name is Rory Shepard. He is the firm owner of ActionCOACH of West Texas, which I am employed with. He's in the room next door. And a little bit about Rory. His DISC, as you can see on the screen, in his adapted style, which he's going to describe more later on, right? He's a CDS, and his motivators are super interesting. We won't go over those today, but Rory appreciates a bottom line results and will likely have a strong competitive me first thinking set in his economics motivator. But in his aesthetic, he's more interested in functional approaches that generate a practical return rather than experiencing the unique of a process. The other great thing about Rory is in his working genius, he is the discriminating ideator. He has invention and discernment, which means he's discerning his invention as he goes. He's a creative, intuitive, and confident generator of new ideas and uses instinct and integrative thinking to solve real problems. And if you know Rory at all, that hits the nail on the head. And Rory's why operating system is simplify, make sense, and right way. He believes in making things simple so they're useful and understandable. So, welcome to the webinar, Rory.
Thank you, Tiffany. Man, I couldn't have written that better myself. Appreciate it. So, thank you. So, yeah, today, so as we go through, we're going to talk about assessments, the power of assessments. If you've got questions, please drop them in the comments. We've got time at the end of the session to kind of go over those. We know some of the most common questions, but we would love to kind of see and hear what y'all are thinking and wondering about as we go through today. So the first assessment is going to be DISC, but I want to talk about one of the things that some people don't know is that there are more than just one assessment out there. Tiffany, when she started, she said we were going to go over two of our favorite assessments, Working Genius and DISC. But you can see on this screen that there are behavior and personality assessments, whether that's DISC and motivators, or emotional intelligence, or positive intelligence, or Thomas Kilmann conflict instrument, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, how do you learn, Myers-Briggs, that MBTI, or 16 personalities, Enneagram, on the faith-based side, a lot of people have taken that. So we kind of do fit for purpose, and after we have conversations with you, we may recommend one of these or another assessment. These are some of our favorites. These are the top ones that we kind of pull on, but there could be others that we say, in this instance, we want to use a different assessment. When we talk about purpose, we talk about Working Genius, one that we will go over with the folks from Excel Energy today. We also have an exciting one that Donna will brief us on the Why operating system based on Simon Sinek's golden circle of why, how, and what. So that'll be an interesting thing that we can talk about. Strengths Finder, Clifton Strength Finder. It's been out there for years. That is another one that we could use to talk about purpose and how you act or interact with each other. And then finally, we also have some productivity assessments that we may run you through, whether that's sales intelligence, sales IQ, 6-step scorecard, some other things that are a little more action coach based, but really targeted at productivity. So as we talk about DISC, so DISC has the 4 letters represent different kind of attributes of our personality. The first is D, I, S, and C. And so how we interact with each other, or how we interact with those on our teams, you can see that D stands for dominance. I'm very interested in results. I'm very direct and potentially pretty competitive. The I stands for influence. So that's around people. So that I and the S are people-oriented. The D and the C are more task-oriented. The D and the I are more outgoing, whereas the S and the C are a little more reserved. So I is around influence, so enthusiasm, friendly, optimistic. The S, still people-related, is going to be more around steadiness. Consistent pace is what I'm interested in. So I'm sincere, I'm patient, I'm modest. In most cases, people that are high S's are high on loyalty. And then the C is around compliance or process and procedure. So very accurate, very cautious, and in some cases contemplative. So now I'm going to bring on Shelly and Jan. And I want to say welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today. And so Shelly and Jan are from the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Amarillo. And Shelly, if you could, just give us a quick kind of who is Ronald McDonald House? I think most of us know, but I would love to hear it from you. And then what is the impact that you guys have in our community?
Thank you, Rory. I always think that people should know, but sometimes we say we're the best kept secret. So we provide a home away from home, a place for families when they're traveling to Amarillo seeking medical care for a pediatric patient, which we consider to be a child birth to 21. And we really cover the top part of the Texas Panhandle, some in New Mexico, some Oklahoma, some Kansas. So a large geographic region that could make it difficult for families to travel back and forth on a daily basis to see their child. And so we just provide a place for them to stay, hot meals at night, transportation to and from the hospital, just anything that we can do to help reduce the stress for families going through what is a super stressful time.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So how long have y'all been in Amarillo?
We are celebrating our 40th birthday this year.
Wow, 40 years. Now, you're not old enough to have been there all 40 years. I know that for sure. So how long have you been at Ronald McDonald House?
I've been here for 11 years.
Okay. And how about you, Jan? How long have you been with Ronald McDonald House?
Well, we're both working on our 12th year, so we're about 11 and a half years.
Sweet. So y'all have been working together for 11 and a half years or so with Ronald McDonald House. So
Right.
As we go through your disc, one of the questions that's just going to be in the back of my mind will be, how much of this did you already know about each other? Or how much did you learn, or what clarity did you get from what we talk about as we go through disc? And so for you, Shelley, you've got a natural style and an adapted style. And so I'll go through those pretty quickly. So your natural style that's kind of how you're born. That's how you're going to act, or how we're going to experience you. In most cases, it's going to be how we experience you when you're under high times of stress or strain, a little bit of pressure. Your adapted style is how we're going to experience you on a regular day. For you, those are both pretty close to the same. So you're not much different whether you're under a whole bunch of stress or not much stress. You're high on the I side, influence. And so we say influence people. So each one of these letters also has a kind of a P word that goes with that. So influencing people is kind of natural for you and kind of a place that you're very comfortable. And now I'm going to switch over to Jan, and her natural style is an ICS, but then your adapted style, kind of who you are when we experience you at work, Jan, just on a regular working day, day in and day out, your S goes up pretty significantly, and then your C goes down but is still there, but your I drops down significantly, right? And so the S is steadiness of pace, and then the C is that compliance and really kind of focused on procedures, process, getting things done. So as I describe both of those, both heads are nodding there. So Shelley, tell me a little bit about, as I described Jan, kind of what did you hear, what resonates for you in that description?
Well, having worked together for almost 12 years, I love that we complement each other with our differences. That is always something that I can count on. When I start getting out there, when I have some crazy ideas, I can run them by Jan. She doesn't immediately shoot me down, but she will say, let me find the facts. I had highlighted some of the things, some of the attributes for the steadiness and the conscientiousness, but it's being accurate, it's being analytical, it's being a fact finder. Right. And I have known that I could count on Jan for that, but it's been fun for me to see, to have certain words that go along with it. And of course, I'm the one, like, I would like to have these graphs posted outside everybody's office so I know,
right.
I know what you are.
Yeah. Right. So one of the things that we get when we get the DISC report is some basic information, like when communicating with Jan, do these things. So one was provide testimonials from people that Jan sees as important or prominent. When you're communicating with Jan, do your homework, because Jan's homework will already be done.
That was
right?
my aha moment.
Right? Absolutely. Right. And so we did have the opportunity to go through this with your whole team. When Jan actually read that one out loud, and everybody on the team laughed and said, that's exactly right. right? So, Jan, I want to bring you in and just ask you a couple of things that were on the don't do when communicating with Jan. Don't be unrealistic with deadlines. Don't be vague about what's expected, and don't make decisions for Jan. Right. So as you hear those, and those were some of the ones that we talked about, what were the keys there for you?
Well, a lot of that I recognize as being true. Of course, there's a couple of little things in there. You're like, I guess it is true.
Yeah.
But I do like to have things. I don't really work outside of what is realistic. I guess it's harder to. I want to make sure that it can be done. It's a doable task, and make sure that it's good results.
Love it. So Jan, I'm going to read a couple of things about Shelley, and just tell me your reaction to these. So when communicating with Shelley, be sure to put all the details in writing, but then don't plan to discuss them too much. Right? So I want to know that you did the work, but I don't want to have to go through all of it. So as we read that and we talked about that when we went through these with you, just tell me, did that change the way you think about your approach to Shelley in any way?
It does, because a lot of times I just want to run in and talk about it, but she has so many other things going on in her mind. I don't necessarily get that attention. I've learned that I need to say, I would like to make an appointment because I have things that I need to talk about. And I want full attention because that's rare.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I love it. So Jan or Shelley, just real quick. So after getting these results, and Shelley, you said you want to have these posted on it outside of everybody's door, right? So that when you go in to talk with them, what are those things, right? But is there any kind of other big aha moments you got as a team as you walk through these?
Well, for me, one of the interesting things for me, we have a couple of team members that on outward appearance, you would think that they were two very different people, different style of people. And then in the DISC assessment, they really had almost the same DISC assessment.
Right.
I thought that was really neat for them to see, even though they work differently, have a different approach, different personality, under the surface and prioritizing very similar.
Love that. Right. So there is so much to learn, right? DISC shows us personality and behaviors and kind of how we should interact with each other. And it gives us a shortcut to the language. So both of y'all said that of, now that I have this, I've got different words that I can use, or I can approach you in a different way because of what we learned from DISC.
Right.
So that's fantastic. I posted on just real quick, if you're interested in learning more about Ronald McDonald House, or heaven forbid, giving a donation, I'm sure Shelley would hate to have that happen, but there is the link that you can go to. Please, by all means, engage, interact with them. Fantastic stuff. So, and
our email addresses are on the website. So anybody that has questions or wants to care about our experience can send us an email.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. So next, we're going to move. So Tiffany's already been on, but I'm going to give you a little bit deeper introduction to Tiffany Carter. So you can see that Tiffany Carter, her DISC is, her natural style is D, and not surprisingly, her adapted style is D as well, with just a little bit more on the C. So that process and procedure comes up a little bit. That's a learned activity for her. She got to spend 10 years with Chick-fil-A working with owner-operators on doing process, and so that would be key for her. That C comes up, process, procedure, following those key things that are not as natural, but had become natural to her in the way she acts and interacts. I will highlight working genius because that's what she's going to be talking about. She is what we know of as the intuitive activator. And Tiffany will go through the details on kind of what these letters mean, but she has high discernment and high galvanizing. And so discernment is that piece of discerning an idea or discerning how people would act or react to a new invention or a new idea. And then galvanizing is that let's rally the troops, let's go take that hill, get everybody excited about a new initiative. And from her YOS, you can see that her why is she believes that there is always a better way. How she brings that about is through simplification. And what you will get from her on a regular basis is a challenge to the status quo. Not because she wants to be a contrarian, but when she sees something that doesn't make sense, she's going to challenge it so that we can have a better way. And so Tiffany is going to walk us through Working Genius, and then she will bring on Brad and Chiquita and go through their specific Working Genius.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. I'm excited to be on. I'm going to let you control the slides because you're much better at that than I am. So Working Genius is a fairly new assessment out on the market. It's was founded by the Table Group and Patrick Lencioni. He's written about 15 books. One that you probably know, have probably even read if you're on this call, is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. But it's understanding and leveraging each team member's gifts and frustrations. What gives you joy? What brings you energy? Marcus Buckingham talks about loved it, loathed it, right? But if I can work in my geniuses and what I love 20% of the day, the work week, he says we're more fulfilled and less likely to experience burnout. So super important. But it also helps us identify team gaps in how work gets done. They've got 6 premises on work getting done, and that'll help with our productivity and how we do meetings. So the first one is wonder, right? It's reaction to the environment. I wonder if we did this, or how can we do this, right? It's probably, if you have wonder, you're probably the kid in school that the teacher said, stop daydreaming out the window, right? Some see it as unproductive, but it can be very productive. The next one is invention. It's actually responding to that wonder. And do we need to create something for that? Does it need a system, a process, a new product for that gap? And then we have the discernment, which Rory somewhat described, but it's using that intuitive feeling. It's one of the wonder and discernment are the hardest ones to observe because you can't really see it happening. But super important for someone to go, hey, like that wonder and that invention is great, but we really don't need that. Or this is really impactful to the world. And then galvanizing again is taking that hill. That's my favorite phrase, is let's go take that hill. Let's go. My team here, skinny pedal on the right, probably weekly, right? But let's go. This can make an impact. So very important there as well. And then I love the last two. They're enablement and tenacity. So enablement is how do I partner with you and get the work done? I love getting the work done. A lot of those people are behind the scenes type people. And then tenacity is how do we push it across the finish line? Probably a checkbox person, loves to mark something off of a list. So super, super great stuff. The top 3 are what we call responsive geniuses. They're not, they're responsive. They're responding to something in the environment, while invention, galvanizing, and tenacity, they're more disruptors. So, right, they're moving the environment. They're maybe having conversations with people and really just changing the environment as well. I was teasing my husband a couple of days ago. He goes, hey, have a great day at work. Don't stir the pot. I said, what am I going to do with my spoon, right? Because I have some disruptive geniuses as well. So, all right, we're going to bring on Brad Baldridge and Jaquita Crawford from Excel Energy. Welcome, you two. Glad to have you on. And they received their results this week. We were able to go over Brad's together. So welcome. Glad to have you guys.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Well, we appreciate it. So Brad, could you just tell us a little bit about Excel Energy and what role that you all play there at Excel?
Absolutely. So for those of us that are not familiar with Excel Energy is an electric and gas energy provider. We're in 8 states, really kind of in the Midwest, or right in the middle of the country, from Minnesota all the way down to Texas, New Mexico. Closer here to home, Jaquita and I work for Excel Energy Texas. We're the former Southwestern Public Service Company, and so we serve communities, 98 communities in Texas and New Mexico, primarily the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico. Now, while our sister companies serve you with gas, we serve electric only here in our territory in Texas and New Mexico. So we're in the community relations department is specifically what we do. Our roles at Excel Energy, we work with really our local leaders, city, county officials, nonprofits, our economic development providers. And so we're kind of the liaison, if you will, between the community and Excel Energy, trying to establish exactly what our department says, good relationship with our communities, because we know how valuable the service that we provide in our communities is. And so we try to have that relationship so that we can provide it the best that we can and give our communities really what they deserve from an energy provider.
Love that. Thanks for sharing. So I loved getting to know you the other day, getting to hear more of that. Did not even know that they had, right, your department. You're a great fit for it. So I appreciate you sharing that information. So let's kind of get into your working geniuses. Brad's working genius is enablement and tenacity. I'm a little disappointed he's not at his desk. Did you bring your sheet with you by chance?
I've got it.
Yes.
Here it is.
Right. We started talking about it Tuesday and he goes, I said, do you like to check things off the box, right? Mark things off task. And he goes, you mean something like this? I'm like, yes, right. That's the tenacity part of Brad. His working competency. So the genius is what he gets a ton of energy and joy from. His competencies are discernment and wonder, which means he enjoys doing it, but if he had to spend long periods of time in that space, he could become frustrated and a little burned out. And galvanizing and invention are his frustrations. We're going to spend a little bit of time there. So, Brad, Tuesday we had a conversation about your prior role at Excel. You used a lot of discernment and wonder. And so we started comparing the two. Which one do you feel like you get more energy out of in your roles?
Yeah, as you said, we discussed earlier the different twos and the different roles, and it certainly has gotten me to thinking over the last couple of days. And as I've looked at this and read through the documentation, as a good C does, if you talk about DISC, certainly where I role set today in community relations fits where my working genius is, especially, we talked about the tenacity and the checking the tax off, but we start talking about enablement, and I was kind of, again, this is new to me and learned a little bit more about it. That's really what our department does. It's talking about enjoying helping others get problems or jobs or activities done. That's what our group does, and that's where we enjoy it. And so we're a department of 12, Tweet and I, just the two of us. And that's what we do, whether we're working with our internal groups and operations, trying to build out infrastructure to serve new businesses, new homes, new subdivisions, helping the city grow in that aspect of it. We're helping those departments get their right of way. We're helping them not, overcome hurdles that they need to overcome so they can get the project done. But on the other side of the ticket, when we're working with our communities and our customers, when they call in and have an issue, whether it be issue with service, whether it be system issues like voltage, or even billing issues that we deal with, we enjoy helping those customers find the right person within Excel Energy to resolve their issues. Again, we give it the billing, whether it's low voltage or whatever it is from a system standpoint. We enjoy connecting the dots. And then, as you said, on my tenacity side, I like checking off the box that we got them satisfied, and we can go on to the next issue and help the next person.
I love it. I love it. Brad was telling me a little bit right. He's an engineer by education. In his former role, he had to do a little bit of wonder and invention. So he did it well. He would go back to the past and say, hey, like this thing that we did back here, we could bring it forward, change it, tweak it, and make it work. And he goes, but it did wear me down. So that was great to hear. Appreciate you sharing that. So Jaquita, we're going to move to you, put you on the spotlight here, friend. She has enablement as well, but she's got some wonder, which I was excited to see. Wasn't sure. Jaquita probably only has about 400 to 500 words to use a day, so she's super soft-spoken. But her working competencies are tenacity and invention, and then working frustrations, galvanizing, and discernment. So, Jaquita, when you got your results back, how did that feel? How does that fit into what you do? Does that feel correct to you?
Most of it does. I've never done anything like this before, so I've had to look over it a couple of times.
Yes.
But, yeah, most of it I can see. I like to be in the background. I don't like to be up front. So I'm more of a behind the scenes.
Love it. With the wonder, sometimes we don't see it. And we have a couple people on our team that have wonder. And because when we go through school, it's enablement tenacity. Schooling is an ET role, right? It's a task that we have to do. So we kind of put wonder back. I wonder, Jaquita, if you wonder from your inside voice, if you have a lot of thoughts and ideas that go through your brain that you just don't actually externalize to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to help Brad out a little bit. He wants you to wonder more out loud. Is that fair?
Yes, I will work on that definitely.
Right. She also has the tenacity, which is great for y'all's role, but she's also got some invention in that competency. So the great thing is what we see in this is hearing what Brad and Jaquita do, right? Their geniuses fit for those roles. So they're less likely to experience burnout. They're probably more productive and go home with more enjoyment from what they do. So we would say that's a really great fit. Now, interesting conversation that we had as we wrap up was neither one of them have galvanizing. Now, they're a team of two. If they were supervising other people, we would say, hey, this could be an area of a gap. When a team has a gap, we had another team on last week that also was missing galvanizing. And when I asked Brad, I said, you probably feel that, hey, you're here to do a job. I shouldn't have to galvanize you to do it. And he just died laughing, right? That's very common for someone that doesn't have galvanizing. If they had a larger team or when they're interacting with other teams, they might borrow somebody else's galvanizing. Or they're very skilled professionals. They may just have to say, I'm going to have to galvanize for a little bit. If I know I only have to do it for an hour or this afternoon for the meeting, I can get through it because I know it's for a short period of time. Any other thoughts around the missing galvanizing piece there, Brad?
I think you're absolutely right. We are a small team. We're actually a team of 12, but we're scattered across Texas and New Mexico. The team that we have, though, of those 12, 11 of us are managers, right? So they're the professional level. To your point, your managers, your adults, go do what you need to do to take care of business and enable projects, whether it's in the community or with the community, and take care of it. My prior role, I was over a group of 350 people. So that certainly lends itself to needing to sometimes, as you said, be the galvanizer of the group or go out and find somebody in that group to help rally the team when we need to get a task done. So
Love
absolutely.
it. Yeah, love it. So great insight. Looking forward to seeing how y'all are able to utilize this information moving forward. It has been brand new to you, so we appreciate you guys getting in the space and playing with us and learning something new. Rory made I think it's xlenergy.com if you have any other questions or want to do a little bit more research about what they do. But they do great things within the community. I know Brad's very involved in the United Way campaign up here at Amarillo Canyon. So glad to have you guys on it and really appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Michael Hyatt says, nothing gave me an aha moment like the working genius. It dialed in something for me that's been a question for years. It gave me a sense of freedom. And I can tell you when I received it, I understood my discernment galvanizing better, and the intuitive activator was huge for me. And so I'm able to understand how I interact and engage my team, our clients, and other, even my family members, right? They would say they understand me better now too. So it's really a great tool to understand how I approach work and where my giftings are, and how do I prevent burnout for myself. Awesome. Next, we have Donna Kapmeyer. Donna, let me tell you, y'all are in for a treat. She's one of my favorite people. I've known her for about a year. I got to meet her in Nashville in April. She is a lot of fun. I'm going to kind of lead in, tell you her disc. You can see it on there. In her natural style, she's a high ID. And then in her adapted style, right, those kind of switch, and she's a DI. We get along really well, even though we're very similar. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about her Y operating system. So Donna's Y is contribute. About 53 to 54% of the population is contribute. She believes that success happens when she contributes to a greater cause and to the betterment of others. And that is, I mean, once you meet Donna, you know that's 100% true. She does this by solving complex and challenging problems, make sense, which is her how, right? Lean Six Sigma. She's got all those credentials around processes and systems. And she likes to put them in an organized fashion so that she can ultimately bring simple solutions that are useful, understandable, and easy to implement. And her what is simplify. So welcome to the webinar, Donna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right, so let's talk about the YOS assessment and just how important it can be to you and for those that you interact with. This is really about unleashing your purpose. And when I took this assessment, I called this life-changing. Out of all the assessments, this was life-changing for me. The YOS was created by Dr. Gary Sanchez, who's a dentist, and he is the founder of the Y Institute. And, you know, how often do we find ourselves, we focus on our what, but we really don't focus on why? When we have conversations, you often hear, hey, what do you do? Well, I do blah, 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 blah. But you really never have the conversation about, well, why do you do it? So the Y operating system really provides us critical insight. As Rory mentioned earlier about Simon Sinek describing the golden circle as why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and then ultimately, what do you bring to the table? So with the YOS, it's really important to ensure that your team members understand each other and understand you. You get the right people on board, right, in the right positions, and ultimately you maintain an alignment and momentum by aligning with your mission. So that's a little bit of the overview of the YOS. Simon Sinek says, you know, his book says, always start with why. Tony Robbins says, when you know your why, you'll know how to live. Friedrich Nietzsche says, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Good old Mark Twain says, the two most important days of your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why you're born. Now, we all have 9 whys somewhere in us, and some are ranked higher than others. And we're going to walk through these briefly. The first one is contribute, which was mentioned that contribute is the number one why for most people. Contribute's about contributing to the greater good. Trust is about trusting relationships is very important, very Loctite in who I communicate with and how much I trust them. If you have a why of make sense, this is really about making sense out of complex things or issues. Having a why of better way, Miss Stefani. It's about always wanting to do things a better way, right? Always wanting to change it and improve it. The right way. I want to do it right the first time, the right way. Having a why of challenge. These are folks that often think differently. They kind of go against the grain. They challenge the status quo. And then we have mastery, those who are like they go deep within any particular subject matter. They want to master the content. Clarify, I want clarity. I need to make sure I've got clarity, and I need to make sure that you've got clarity so that we're both clear. And then last but not least, a why of simplify. I'm always looking to ways that make things better. You saw that as my what. It's about making things better and simplify in simple steps. Again, all of these are in all of us, but there are some are ranked higher than others. So we have something called the why operating system. And those 3 components, the 3 components together are so powerful. The why is why you do what you do, your purpose. That gets you 1/3 of the way there. Then you have your how. Your how is how you bring your why to life. How do you give life to it? And then last but not least, your what is what do you ultimately bring to the table? What do people ultimately see? And order is very important. Okay? All right, so we're going to watch a little video clip here. This is by Michael Jr. Some of you may know who he is, and he's a comedian. He travels all over the country doing stand-up, and each time during his show, he kind of does a break. He calls it break time. And he picks somebody out in the audience to chat with. Now, when you watch this video clip, I really want you to pay attention to the person he's talking to and interacting with. And I want you to think about one thing that you find different. Okay, Rory, if you could play that video clip.
Right there. Yeah. What's your name, bro?
Daryl.
I'm gonna need you to slow down with all that, bro. For real, you scaring the white people. You can't do that, Daryl.
I'm sorry, bro.
You scaring me too, though. Wow. Well, what do you do for a living, Daryl?
I work at Oak Ridge Military Academy. I'm the music director there.
Musical director at Oak Ridge Musical Academy. Okay.
Yeah.
But you got a deep voice, man. I would not want to get you mad. Jonathan, come here. You're like, oh, snap. 9 Jonathans show up. It's amazing, dude. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Let me hear. We didn't plan this. Just so y'all know, we didn't plan this at all. I'm just randomly talking. Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I see.
Wow. I don't know about you, but were you able to find one thing that was different? I get chills. If that didn't send chills, I don't know what will send chills. The first time he was saying is what? The second time, did you feel is why? When you know your why and you live by your why, it just is amazing how your perspective and your impact on others can change. And that, my friends, is the why operating system. Thank you.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Donna.
You bet.
That is a little bit crazy on that video. So what we have here is an example of when we start putting multiple assessments together, what you can kind of see and understand. And so Donna, I know that you've gone through this with us a couple of times, but you can see on the far left our team at Action Coach of West Texas, and you can see our adapted and natural style on the disc. You can see each one of our working genius and frustrations. And then you can kind of see where we are from a YOS perspective. And so we've got 4 people that have simplify either in our why or our how. And then we have 4 that have contribute either in our why or our what. You got anything that just as you look at that, a reaction, and then we've got a quick story that we can tell just a little bit. Even though we've been we've known each other for, most of us been working together for over 2 years and know each other pretty well. Every time we take an assessment, we learn a little bit more. But any reactions or questions for Tiffany or I on this?
Well, I have a comment, an overall comment about this, and then I want you to go in your detail, is around how the combination of these 3 assessments tells a story. And you can weave a story about a person from the left all the way to the right. And when you see it all put together, it's amazing how much power it has.
But that's a great comment, and I'll give you a quick story about that. So Tiffany and I have been doing webinars, seminars, either in person or on the internet for a couple of years now. But back in July, we did a webinar, and after it, we both thought it was one of the best webinars we'd ever done. But Tiffany, with high D, combined with high discernment and galvanizing on wanting to do something and move forward, but then her YOS of a better way. So I thought we rocked it. I thought it was phenomenal. 15 seconds into the conversation, Tiffany starts telling me all the ways that we can improve it for the next time. And I'm like, wait a minute, right? We should be celebrating, not tearing it down. I had to take a step back and actually did not do this in that first conversation, but the second conversation I had with Tiffany is, hey, Tiffany, first off, I need to acknowledge and celebrate your why of a better way, right? That you saw something that was fun and exciting and engaging and you want to improve it for next time, because she was using her discernment and then trying to galvanize me on all the ways that we could get better. And because she is high on her, that dominance and that solving problems kind of idea from a disc perspective, she was ready to make that happen immediately. And so, again, knowing all 3, I can put the story together now in a different way instead of going, I can't believe that Tiffany wants to tear down how good that webinar was. I can look at it and go, no, she's using her giftedness across this and saying, I want to get better and I want to do it quickly. So how does that answer that question or that statement for you?
Tremendously, right? Tremendously, right? Because now it makes you, right? before you may have only had one component, now you've got three components. And you can step back and reevaluate that, saying, wait a minute, don't go jump into this. Let me take a look and say, my house makes sense. This makes sense to me, right?
Right.
Right. So you do evaluate it differently.
Yeah. So Tiffany, how'd I do at telling that story? Is that
He nailed it, accurate. And I would say that one thing I learned weaving Rory's Working Genius and his right way, that I also give him more time to celebrate those wins before I go skinny pedal on the right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm going to show kind of, again, where we started, and that, man, there are a lot of assessments here, which can feel a little bit overwhelming. We had a great question from Chris in the comments. Just, there are so many. How do you determine where to start and how many to do? How do you avoid overload? And how do you gain buy-in, right? So kind of a three-part question, but I would say as we look at this, there is a reason why today we showed you DISC, right? There is a reason why today we showed you Working Genius and YOS. Those would be in that first group that we would say for an individual or a team, those would be areas that we would recommend that you start. Now, with that said, to deal with that overload, kind of overwhelm with those, right? It may be that we don't do them all at the same time. When we did these with Shelly and Jan, we kind of broke them up and did 2 in a week and then did a couple of more the next week so that we weren't just death by assessment, but kind of breaking those up and trying to get to a better spot. But I think, where do you start? We want kind of a broad brush, kind of look at personality, purpose, maybe even something on productivity, so that you get a broader view of your team and who you're acting and interacting with than just one assessment. Any other comments on that, Tiffany or Donna, that go with that?
I was with that. I've done DISC and PTI some of those 40 years and got a very small snapshot of who I was. But I understand me better, and I can interact with my coworkers and my family knowing that some of it's how I'm wired. And then the big one for me is knowing that I have discernment, better way, and galvanizing and high D. My approach matters. So, right, it gives me pause to say, hey, that's what I want to do. And I want to go now. But how am I going to frame that so I don't run over someone? So it's been very beneficial for me.
So let's look at a couple of other questions that we've gotten. One is, how large of a team or an organization should you have before you start using assessments? Donna or Tiffany, do you have a reaction to that?
I would say, yeah, one.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so all of these assessments, I would tell you that it first starts with understanding me. So whether it's DISC or Working Genius or YOS, I need to understand me. As soon as I have a second person on my team, understanding them and how I need to communicate with them, how I should interact with them, what I should expect from them. So absolutely, you can start with one. I'm a solopreneur. I can get an assessment and get value from that. But even if I only have 2 people on my team or 3 people on my team, there's not a bottom limit. There's not a lower limit that says you got to have 5 before assessments make sense. Another question, at what level of the organization should you use assessments? Should I use them only at the leader level? Should I say managers and above? Kind of what guidance would you give us on where in the organization should you use assessments?
A good response to that is any level. These are great assessments to use when you're trying to bring somebody on board before you even bring them on board. So as you get comfortable with them, so any level, it's appropriate.
Yeah, Tiffany and I got into a conversation about like YOS, and we both have a little bit of a restaurant background. Tiffany with Chick-fil-A, me with Whataburger, and we got into a conversation about training a new cashier, training somebody working in the drive-through line. Do I need to know their YOS? And Tiffany, where did we land on that as a conversation?
With that, we landed that even for a 14 to 15-year-old cashier, it would be beneficial to know that if their why is mastery, that they need to really master that task. It changes how I train them versus, right, are they better way? Are they right way? Right? A 14-year-old is going to come through and say if they're a better way of like I am and just start making suggestions, right? How I interact and how I work with them matters, and we can streamline. Jan said it great was, right, we can condense time. And I think at any level, I went into that conversation thinking YOS was not applicable. No, I agree it is. Right? I had my daughter take it, found out hers is trust, right? And that changes full pictures of how she interacts with people. Absolutely.
Love that. All right, so we got just a couple of minutes left. I don't see any other questions that are out there. I'm going to move to this slide and have Tiffany just kind of walk us through she promised at the first that we were going to have great offers at the end. So Tiffany, can you walk us through those?
Thanks, Rory. I did make a promise. I'm going to come through with it. We are offering today only pricing on the Y operating system assessment. So the YOS, it's $225 for the assessment and a 30-minute call with one of us to walk you through that. We're not going to just send you the results. I've had people go, well, I got that, but I got the report back. I don't really understand it. All of these will include at least a 30-minute call with us. The Working Genius is $110 today. And the DISC Plus Motivators, which we did not go over, but even gives you even fuller picture of why someone does what they do. That one will be $175 plus the call today for an individual. Next, we have, and Rory's going to drop some links in the comment section so you can grab and click on those. But then we're also going to offer the team assessment plus coaching. So you can choose 2 of 3 of the assessments for a team of 5 plus a 2-hour coaching session. 2 hours sounds like a lot, but to work through those, right, we can split it up, but it does take some time with the team. So you could choose between the 3 that we went through today, YOS, Working Genius, and DISC and Motivators, or that's for $22.50. And then you could do all 3 for a team of 5 for $22.50 as well today only. So you need to get these today. You will not regret doing this with your team or for yourself. Last month, we had a young lady from California take it for just herself. And she goes, this answers so many things for me. I was like, wait till you share it with your husband. All right. It will be fantastic. So grab those links, contact us, let us know. Happy to get these started for you. They are very impactful, as you heard from our guests today. So grab onto those now, click on those, and then we will get those set up for you and call you and schedule your consults. Anything else, Rory?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tiffany. We're at time, so we really do appreciate it. If you are watching this in replay, in the comments, you will have those links for the assessment bundle plus the 3 individual assessments if you need that for yourself. You can use those, click on those, and interact with us. We really do appreciate it. Hopefully you got value. I'm going to do a special shout out one more time to Shelly and Jan from Ronald McDonald House. Thank you guys for joining us, as well as Brad and Chiquita from Excel Energy. Really do appreciate that time today, and Hope to see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.